Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad.
Hey, howdy, hey, my beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. How are you all doing, everyone? I hope you all enjoyed your week, and I know that I could say that, well, it's been pretty nerve-wracking, I gotta say, considering what's going to be coming up. And, oh, by the way, thank you, Jay Monty, for being the new fish to start this episode off. Don't worry, I will tell you later of what's been nerve-wracking for me personally. But also, first and foremost, I just want to go and say Happy Trans Day of Visibility, considering that I am recording this on March 31st. And yes, that does mean that we are now in Trans Day of Visibility. So to all my trans viewers and listeners out there, I wish you nothing but pure happiness and that you may be comfortable and have love for who you truly are. I understand that things are getting very scary out there, considering the numerous of bigoted attacks towards the group, but hopefully by the end of it all, that you come out okay and that no one will take away your true identity and your love and your happiness. Those are things that will forever be yours no matter what. So I just want to go and say that right now. Also, anyways, going back to what I was talking about before. Now, why is it that I started things off by saying that things are about to get nerve-wracking for me? Well, the thing is that coming very soon, I'm going to be going on a trip to Japan. So with that said, I will also go and announce that because of that, there is going to be a big break for AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. I'm going to be out in Japan, and I will be visiting a few different regions in the area, including Tokyo, of course. And from there, as you can imagine, because I will be like almost halfway around the world from my home, I will be not doing any of the episodes of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast for the next 2 weeks. So keep in mind that on April 7th and on April 14th, and during those weeks as well, there will be no new episode. However, it is also worth noting that I will be coming back on the 21st, and I'll do my best to see how I will go and catch up on what's been going on in the world of animation and stuff like that. I know that technically with during the week that I am recording this, it is CinemaCon, and there is a good chance that there will be a bunch of announcements that will be coming from the major studios, but chances are I will be saving those for much later, unless there might be some newer news that would come out for me to go and discuss. But the point of all this is that I'm going to be going on vacation, and for the next 2 weeks, there will be no new episodes of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. But do keep in mind that on April 21st, there will be a new episode, and I will indeed be coming back. So I just thought that I will go and say that right now. But anyways, we got a heck of an episode, considering that this will be the last one before I go on my trip. This is going to be a real wild one. A heck of a grand finale of an episode before my vacation and before the little delay that I'll be having with this series. So we're going to do the best we can in order to make this one heck of a memorable episode with plenty to go and discuss about. So with that said, now I would like to go on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, are you ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Now let me hear it, folks. Are you ready? Let's see, are you actually ready now? Yes, I see people are ready. You're ready? Yes. Some people are even going Japanese themed to go and prepare myself. That's very cute. All right, so with that said now, I believe that it is time that we shall go and get things started. And with the first story that I have for you today, this is actually going to be breaking news. Something that has been just announced today or on the day that I've been recording this. And with that, originally I was thinking that I'd also include a story where I would go and talk about all the latest updates that have been revealed in the recent Nintendo Direct. But considering with this announcement right here, I think I gotta go and switch things up and give that a bit more priority. So with that said, let's go ahead and talk about the big update of Coyote versus Acme. Yes, folks, it is official. Ketchup Entertainment has officially gotten the rights of Coyote versus Acme from Warner Brothers. Now, this is actually an update from a previous story that I have talked about a week ago. You probably remember in the last episode when I had my special guest, Nick Spake, and we have discussed about the announcement that Ketchup Entertainment was discussing with Warner Brothers in order to go and get the rights of Coyote versus Acme in the hopes that they could go and actually distribute the film in theaters. And at that point, it was still a bit unsure. They were still in negotiations. But now, on March 31st, it looks like the deal is official, and now Ketchup Entertainment, whom, by the way, is the North American distributors of The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, was able to go and get the rights. Now, if I may go onto my source here on Deadline, we even got a quote from the CEO of Ketchup Entertainment, Gareth West, in which he actually put out a statement regarding this piece of news, in which he stated over here, "We're thrilled to have made a deal with Warner Brothers Pictures to bring this film to audiences worldwide. Coyote vs. Acme is a perfect blend of nostalgia and modern storytelling, capturing the essence of the beloved Looney Tunes characters while introducing them to a new generation. We believe it will resonate with both longtime fans and newcomers alike." And now that they have officially gotten the rights to Coyote vs. Acme, right now their plan is that they're going to go and set things up so that most likely it will be having a release in 2026. And by the way, it might as well be worth mentioning about the deal itself, in which when they were negotiating with Warner Brothers, they were doing a deal that is around $50 million in order to get the rights. At least that is what is said here on my source on Deadline, where it says we had the deal pegged in the $50 million range, and the film is expected to get a theatrical release in 2026. So it's give or take $50 million that that Ketchup Entertainment was able to go and convince Warner Brothers in order to go and get the rights. Now that it is official, now that they were able to make that deal happen, I gotta say, holy crap. You know, there is a part of me that I never thought that we would see the day that it would get officially released. Like, I was pretty much at the point that because of, like, the previous news that has happened, like, especially throughout, like, in 2023 and in 2024, I was expecting that the only way we would ever go and see this movie is if someone would be able to go and actually leak the movie, that somehow they would go into the files of Warner Brothers, take Coyote versus Acme, and somehow make a whole leak. At first, I thought that would be the only way we would ever see Coyote versus Acme. But now in this case, we're gonna be getting it in a more official manner. And honestly, it's just very much unbelievable. And I guess it really shows that Ketchup Entertainment is very much in the mood to keep the spirit of the Looney Tunes alive, because they've done so with The Day the Earth Blew Up. And even though it wasn't very successful at the box office, some could even argue that it was a bit of a box office flop where it only made over $10 million worldwide, and most of which is just domestically, which does not even meet the $15 million budget that was put onto the movie itself. Still, though, like, it wasn't like a lost cause entirely. It did do something in order to go and grab attention from audiences. So from there, I guess, like, with the results of The Day the Earth Blew Up, I guess it just made it worthwhile for Ketchup Entertainment for them to actually go and take like this very massive step to go and spend $50 million in order to go and get the rights to Coyote versus Acme. Now, if they're going to go and actually make a big deal out of it, if they would have the resources necessary to go and actually give it a proper distribution and a bigger marketing campaign, more so than they did with The Day the Earth Blew Up, I guess that's going to be a matter where we will have to wait and see, because I'm just going to say right now, considering that they did invest $50 million, I don't know if they could just go and do the same thing with what they just did with The Day the Earth Blew Up. Like, they would have to go and be a little bit more serious in terms of like actually doing a lot more marketing, even if they would have to spend a lot more than they normally would with many of their other pictures. I mean, I get it with Ketchup Entertainment. It is a smaller company compared to some of the other major studios in Hollywood, like Warner Brothers. But still, though, with their big investment, I hope they are planning to go and be a lot more serious with the marketing in order to give Coyote versus Acme the attention it needs. And another thing that I want to go and mention as well with this entire news of Coyote versus Acme is now going to be, or at least most likely happening, where it will get released in theaters. I guess Warner Bros., it's kind of like interesting to see how Warner Brothers is feeling and like their attitude in this entire situation, where they feel like, yeah, you know what? Sure, you could go and have it. It's not like we're going to distribute it. I guess they're pretty much at the point where they don't seem to care as much as before, because I do remember like a while back, after the initial backlash of turning Coyote versus Acme into a tax write-off, like they kind of stepped back a little bit from doing so, and they tried to go and sell it to people. Like originally, if I remember correctly, the tax write-off that Warner Brothers was about to do was like around 30 million. But then when they wanted to go and sell it to other distributors, because like there were others that were actually interested in getting it, like either Netflix, there was also Amazon, I believe, and even Paramount. Like, they wanted to go and make their deals, but the only problem was that Warner Brothers was being very picky. Considering that the film itself is a $70 million feature, they wanted to ask a lot more than that. They wanted something like 80 million or something even more. They want to go and like turn that into a profit, but they weren't able to do so, and that's why it was just left on the shelf. Now, if I would go and put into a theory to why is it that now Warner Brothers decided to say yes to Ketchup Entertainment and not to the other prominent studios like either Netflix or Paramount and stuff like that, my guess would probably be that maybe they already got the tax write-off, and that with the extra 50 million, I guess Warner Brothers has officially made a profit, and that's how they agreed to the deal. So at least they didn't necessarily lose anything on Coyote versus Acme. They did make a few $1 million out of it now that they did make the deal, and that now it is officially in the hands of Ketchup Entertainment. That could possibly the whole situation, but again, that's only my personal theory. But either way, whatever the case may be, at the end of the day, the important thing to note is that with Coyote versus Acme, now it is officially in the hands of Ketchup Entertainment, and they are going to be the ones who will go and actually distribute the picture, in which their plan will be for 2026. And honestly, like, now that there is, like, I'm going to say a 99.9% chance that we are going to be seeing Coyote versus Acme on the big screen, I mean, I'm leaving like a 0.1% chance that maybe things will ultimately not work out, and that maybe it's still going to be end up scrapped, whatever happens to Ketchup Entertainment. Hopefully nothing bad will. But considering now we do have the chance, it does make me pretty excited to see how things are going to go, especially with the fact that when we have heard that, like those who have seen it, they actually loved it. Like the cast, like Lana Condor or Will Forte, when they went to go and see the movie for themselves, they actually loved it. And some have even said that it's their best personal work yet. And even those who have seen it, like Phil Lord, for example, he gave it nothing but great praise. So chances are there might be something special with Coyote versus Acme. And so far, you could tell that even though the executives do not care about the Looney Tunes at all, you could tell that the artists and the creators and the filmmakers in Warner Brothers, they have a strong love for the Warner Brothers. And you could already tell, like, a lot of it has already been seen with The Day the Earth Blew Up, with the animation team making a very fun-filled movie with Porky and Daffy's film. And now I'm optimistically curious to see what they are going to do with Coyote versus Acme, to see if it really is worthwhile, if it really is the movie that is so hyped up. Honestly, it makes me optimistically curious. Like, I am definitely going to be planning to see this movie next year. So I guess ultimately we're just going to wait and see how it goes. But with all that said, I just want to go and say congratulations to the people at Ketchup Entertainment for officially making that deal happen. And I can't wait to go and check out Coyote versus Acme when, as you say, the plan is that it will be out next year in 2026. So I'll definitely be keeping my eye on it. And with that said, now I would like to go on to the chat wall. And I'd like to ask you all, what do you think about Coyote versus Acme now in the hands of Ketchup Entertainment? Do you think this is the right company to go and distribute Coyote versus Acme? Do you think things are going to work out for the feature? Let me know what you all think. All right, so let's see what we got here. Even though I won't be able to tune into, I won't tune in into the entirety of the episode, I'm glad this is one story I'm able to make. To repeat what I said in the last episode, there can be miracles when you believe. Although I am a bit sad that The Day the Earth Blew Up was a flop, I was glad to see it twice and wanted to see it at least a third time, but it looks like it's getting pulled from theaters near me this week. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much at the point where last I checked at the box office, I believe even Dogman was making more than The Day the Earth Blew Up during the recent weekend. So in that regards, honestly, it's like pretty much inevitable that very soon The Day the Earth Blew Up will be out in theaters. So if you guys haven't seen it yet, then I highly recommend you do so. Go check it while you can. As for me, well, I'm pretty much going to be, like, I've already seen the feature, really enjoyed it, and I'm going to be optimistically waiting for when it will be coming out on DVD and Blu-ray. All right, let's see what we got here. I think it's safe to say it's been a crazy ride with this movie. After the last couple of years with how they treated this movie, but this shocked me. The fact this movie is going to get released, especially how Warner Brothers has treated the Looney Tunes, and we can finally look at the Looney Tunes in a positive way. And I do think this could be more successful than The Day the Earth Blew Up, considering James Gunn is involved and it has John Cena in it. Yeah, that is true. I forgot, like, James Gunn was a part of the production. Like, yeah, I know about, like, John Cena also, but, like, wasn't James Gunn part of a right? Oh, okay, he's a producer. Okay, just want to go and make sure. Yeah, he's one of the producers. All right. Okay, I gotcha. I mean, okay, if this technically counts as a James Gunn production, then freaking count me in, dude. Holy crap. Anyways, let's see what we got here. I'm happy the movie was saved. I guess the tax write-off wasn't worth the years-long headache for Zaslav. However, I feel like even when it comes out, I worry the reactions will be it wasn't worth it. Like, people will hate it because it didn't meet the high expectations of saving it. It could be a mid-movie and people will hate it like everything. Movies, regardless of quality, are a gift. They are hard to make, and I'm glad it will see the light of day. I hope it's good or at least decent. I mean, I guess the factor of will this movie be good or not, like, that's going to be something to go and wait and see. But still, though, I'm just personally glad that at least it is going to be coming out. At least it will be seen on the big screen, because when you got a project that you got like hundreds of people who have worked on it and that, you know, they put in their like heart and soul into the project, it's better off to that it actually does get seen the light of day than to ultimately get scrapped. Like that's honestly the worst fate for a movie. Even if the film does come out and it becomes a box office bomb and it's like, and it ultimately becomes like the butt of every joke on the internet and stuff like that, at least it's better to have that outcome because the art is released. The art can be seen by people. At least it's not like scrapped and just thrown into the bin where we can only wonder what it could have been. You know what I mean? So anyways, it's alive! It's alive! This is an absolute Nimona level win for animation fans, and it proves that Ketchup Entertainment may be the Looney Tunes' biggest hero since, I don't know, LeBron. Needless to say, Coyote vs. Acme will be a must-watch next year. Even if it ends up being bad, it's great that the work that went into it will see the light of day. And hey, at least Ketchup's doing better with the animation than Mustard. To clarify, I watched Sneaks after it shadow dropped in the UK. Awful movie. Oh, you actually went to watch Sneaks? Ooh, oh boy, that's sorry to hear that, dude. No, but honestly, you actually pretty much summed it up best with what I was trying to explain before. Like I'll repeat, even if it ends up being bad, it's great that the work that went into it will see the light of day, and that is the important part right there. It's the fact that it will get released, even if it doesn't necessarily meet all those expectations. Let's see now. There is a God, and he is good. After years of begging and pleading, we have finally saved Coyote vs. Acme. I regret being too busy to support The Day the Earth Blew Up, but I will make the effort to see this in 2026. By the way, I encourage everyone in the entire cartoon community to do the same. You wanted this, so put your money where your mouth is. Yeah, exactly. I think it is safe to say that for those people who want like Coyote vs. Acme to be saved, that's on you to go and actually watch it, because if you're not going to go and see it, even though you've been advocating so much to go and watch it, then don't be surprised if people are going to accuse you of being a clout chaser. Now this is the ultimate test to see if you truly do believe if Coyote vs. Acme should be released and if it should be seen. So I'm just going to go and clarify that there. Anyways, let's see here. Justice is served. Ketchup Entertainment saved Coyote vs. Acme from the filthy hands of David Zaslav, and we just have to wait a year to see this. Although the film could end up being a suckage, I'd rather see it getting released than languish in the vault for years. Also, imagine if Ketchup Entertainment becomes a major Hollywood studio, or if it somehow buys Warner Brothers entirely. Okay, hold on. Calm down, people. I mean, yeah, like, it's great that it happened, but I mean, I don't know, like, what would cause Ketchup Entertainment to go and become, like, a multimedia conglomerate that would be powerful enough to go and buy Warner Brothers? I mean, I get it. It's definitely a great dream, but it's still a dream. So I just want to go and say that. Let's see. Maybe Ketchup could rescue Fixed if Sony ain't going to release it themselves. Okay, well, again, this is another case where, like, hold your horses, people. I know that we are in the middle of the excitement and, like, this news is still fresh of the fact that Coyote vs. Acme has been acquired by Ketchup Entertainment, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Ketchup Entertainment should be viewed as the savior of lost media, you know? It's not like Ketchup Entertainment is going to go and make an entire career out of just acquiring movies that studios just don't want to release. I don't think that's going to be something that will happen. I mean, maybe I'll be proven wrong and maybe Ketchup Entertainment will go and buy Fixed, but honestly, I highly doubt that. I mean, they're just gonna, like, let them just start off with Coyote vs. Acme and The Day the Earth Blew Up. Let them do, like, the Looney Tunes movie, and we'll see into the future if they'll maybe consider doing some others as well, or if it's just going to be Looney Tunes exclusive. But again, I just want to go and clarify, like, yeah, it's great to see that Ketchup Entertainment has done that, but don't expect them to do that with all the animated projects that studios don't want to release. I'm just saying. Let's see now. Take that, Zaslav. Warner Brothers could have another hit for the Looney Tunes, but they didn't want that for some reason. Thank you, Ketchup Entertainment, for actually doing this. Now, Coyote is going to be one of the most anticipated films of 2026. Congratulations to the crew of getting their film release. I can't wait to see it. All right, so I think with that said, that should go and do it for this story. And we're going to go on to our first break. And when we do come back, we're going to talk about another upcoming Warner Brothers project. But this is not necessarily something that was lost that now is going to be revived and stuff like that. No. This is going to be a brand new take of an animated classic that is a big part of Warner Brothers' legacy. Or it belonged to someone, but then Warner Brothers then acquired it. Well, you'll see what I mean when we're going to come back, and I'll be talking about the origins of the Mystery Gang. All right, welcome back. Now, when it comes to our next story, we're going to be talking about Netflix, specifically with how they've been handling their live action series, or more specifically, their live action series that have been based on animated properties. Or maybe another proper term would be live action remake series. But anyways, when it comes to those in particular, so far I'll say that things have gotten better for them. Now, they have tried before with a few attempts such as Death Note and even Cowboy Bebop, but those of them, those did not really work out. They ended up becoming major flops. But then suddenly, things have started to improve where they now got their craft a little bit better when it comes to making their own live action remakes. That is especially the case with the One Piece series, in which that turned out to be a massive hit with season 2 coming. And then there is also the Avatar: The Last Airbender series, which wasn't great, but it was still successful enough in which they did say that they're going to go and complete the series. They just did book 1, and now they're also going to do book 2 and book 3 as well. So they've, now they got the ball starting to roll well for themselves. Now they are improving on their craft. But now they got another series that's going to be coming that will fit in that category. Now, as you probably have noticed from what I've mentioned, a lot of them are anime. And then you got Avatar, that's kind of like anime inspired or anime adjacent. But this one, though, is going to be different. This is going to be a lot more of an American animated series. In fact, this is actually based on a true classic, because now Netflix is going to be making a brand new series based on Scooby-Doo. Yes, Netflix has officially greenlit an 8-episode series that will be the origins of Scooby-Doo. Yes, it's going to be a full-on reimagining in which they're going to go and tell a new version of how the Mystery Gang all got together. And so far, from what we have heard, we know about the basics so far. We know about a few people who will be involved with the project and an idea of what the story is going to be. In fact, let me go on my source here on Deadline, in which it actually gives us a bit of a synopsis of what this is going to be about, in which it states here, during their final summer at camp, old friends Shaggy and Daphne get embroiled in a haunting mystery surrounding a lonely lost Great Dane puppy that may have been a witness to a supernatural murderer. Together with the pragmatic and scientific townie Velma and the strange but ever so handsome new kid Freddy, they set out to solve the case that is pulling each of them into a creepy nightmare that threatens to expose all of their secrets. And this is actually going to be brought to us by writers and showrunners Josh Applebaum and Scott Rosenberg, who previously were the people that worked on the Cowboy Bebop live action series. And don't worry, I will be talking about that very soon. But we do have a quote here that I would like to go and read, which will be from the VP of Scripted Series on Netflix, Peter Friedlander, in which he made a statement here by saying, Mystery Inc. is back in business. We're excited to bring Scooby-Doo to TV as a live-action series for the first time. The beloved franchise has had an impact on pop culture that is undeniable. It's rich with universal themes of friendship that generations of fans have long embraced. Together with creative powerhouses Berlanti Productions and Midnight Radio, which is Applebaum and Rosenberg's company in terms of the latter, we're committed to delighting longtime fans and opening up a world of groovy adventures for a new era of meddling kids. He would go on and continue by saying here, one of my first and favorite jobs in Hollywood was sitting with Bill Hanna and Joe Barbera while they sign animation cells. Josh and Scott and everyone at Midnight Radio have crafted a story that captured their amazing spirits and their genius creation. We are grateful to them and everyone at Warner and Netflix for the partnership in helping bring this iteration of Scooby-Doo to life. Now, from there, though, even though we got those little pieces of information, we don't have a confirmation as to when is it specifically that this is going to be coming out. We don't know who are the actors that are going to be playing the characters. So far, a lot of that remains, well, no pun intended, a mystery. So this is still very early in production, but now we got a little bit of an idea of what will be to come. All we know so far is that this is happening, that we are going to be getting a live action Scooby-Doo series on Netflix that will be a new version about their origins and stuff like that. And I gotta say, I've seen a lot of skepticism when it comes to this show in particular, and it does raise a lot of questions, especially in terms of how they're going to go and bring this new series to life. And even I myself do have a little bit of questions, especially when it comes to Scooby-Doo himself. Are they going to portray him as just a dog, or will they actually make him a talking dog, kind of like with what we have recently seen with either the live-action Scooby-Doo movies from the 2000s or even in Scoob? There are some ways that maybe they'll find a way to go and interpret it. Maybe they'll have like something that's going to be more reality based, and Scooby-Doo is just going to be a dog in this case. But then again, I will say though that it is going to be a little bit strange to see that Scooby is going to be playing a bit of a key role, since like they say that he is the witness of a murder and stuff like that. So that's one thing I don't know what's going to be happening. Like, will they make Scooby-Doo more of a cartoon character, or will they make him a little bit more of a dog? That I guess we're going to go and wait and see. But in terms of some of the criticisms I've seen people talk about, like I've seen a lot of comments where people have been weirded out by the fact that apparently they're going to make Daphne and Shaggy longtime friends. Because usually when you think of two characters in Scooby-Doo that would be a duo, like often you would think about like Scooby and Shaggy, like always a pair. Or you would think like Daphne with either Velma or with Fred and stuff like that. But Shaggy and Daphne together, that seems a little bit unusual. But I will say, as someone who grew up watching a lot of classic Hanna-Barbera cartoons, especially with the many different versions of Scooby-Doo, that I actually do understand. Because throughout the history of Scooby-Doo, it's not uncommon to see Shaggy and Daphne being a pair or like being good friends together. Now, granted, they've never done they've never done it where they've made them a couple. Like we don't actually see any shippings of Daphne and Shaggy, but we have seen them be friends, or that they would be the ones who would be, who would pair up and that they would go and solve mysteries alongside Scooby-Doo. A great example is the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, where it's one of the Scooby-Doo spin-offs, and that they would have characters such as Shaggy, Daphne, Scooby-Doo, Scrappy-Doo, and another character by the name of Flim Flam. So in that regards, okay, you want to have that extra context. You want to have Daphne and Shaggy having a friendship that's already established. That I'm personally fine with. Okay. But if there is one thing that I do understand where a lot of the doubt is coming from is actually the writers and showrunners, Josh Applebaum and Scott Rosenberg. These, and as I mentioned before, these are also the same guys that have brought us the Cowboy Bebop live action series. And say what you will about it, but I'm not gonna lie, it didn't really go well. Like, I'm not saying that it was a disaster. Like, personally, I would definitely much rather take the Cowboy Bebop series over the Death Note movie that Netflix tried to do that ended up becoming a bit more of a joke. But still, though, it didn't really work out well. Like, with the Cowboy Bebop series, it didn't necessarily hold a candle, or it didn't really capture, like, the true spirit of Cowboy Bebop, or what made that an anime masterpiece. And in that regard, this, like, it just quickly fell flat. Like, especially after the first episode, the interest was just like completely lost with people. And that's why it didn't necessarily survive after one season. Or why is it that we never really got much of the live action version of Edward, or even at most, it's just like that one little moment at the end of the first season or at the end of the series. And that's pretty much it. So when it comes to these people, I'm not questioning the talents of Applebaum and Rosenberg. Like, I'm not saying that these guys suck, they should never work in the industry or anything like that. It's just that so far with the record that they do have, it's just, I don't know if they're going to go and create a series that I think will be like truly worthwhile, or really make something that would be considered like, oh my God, this is like a must watch. This is a great new update to Scooby-Doo. You have to go and see it. Like, honestly, I don't know that, like, I don't know if these would be the right people to go and make a great Scooby-Doo series. Like, I'll give them this. They have the capabilities that maybe they could go and make something good. But to make something great that could really become successful for Netflix and have audiences like immediately go and watch it, that's something I personally feel a little bit iffy about. And this is not even to mention how audiences are a little bit on edge, and that they do have trust issues when it comes to reimaginings of Scooby-Doo, especially with what we have recently seen with Velma. And oh my goodness, I've already talked about before how Velma, like, yeah, I won't deny it is not a good series whatsoever, but the hatred on that was explosive. Like, it was overwhelming to see the amount of hate, or that people would hate this as if like Velma was the one that took the lives of their parents and that they want revenge, you know? Like, it really was, like, the hatred was that extreme, and again, it was so overblown. So in that regards, audiences right now do have a bit of trust issues when it comes to new versions of Scooby-Doo. So in that regard, I can imagine that based off of that, people will be a little bit on edge when they'll see a new version of Scooby-Doo, or a live action version, especially, and this is not even to mention of some other attempts of turning classic Warner Brothers animated shows, or animated shows that Warner Brothers own, and that they would be turned into live action. Another prominent example, and something that I can imagine that people could possibly make comparisons to, is the canceled Powerpuff Girls live action series. You may remember when Lost Media Busters recently leaked the pitch of that series and how that turned out to be quite a disaster that people were so relieved that it got canned. So I can imagine that could be another case where people would go and immediately make other comparisons because, again, it technically counts as another live action remake. So I don't know. It's just overall with this series, it's like, okay, you know, feel free to go and try it out, but I could see this go either way. I could see that maybe there is a likelihood that things can work out and that they could actually make a solid new Scooby-Doo series and that they'll make proper updates that could actually work out with the spirit of the show. But at the same time, I could see this not working out well also. I could see this end up becoming another Cowboy Bebop where it's only going to last with just those 8 episodes and that's it. Or worst case scenario, that this is going to be like another Velma or another canceled Powerpuff Girls live action series. That this is just going to be something that people will absolutely hate and just shred into pieces because of how it is so vastly different from what people know about Scooby-Doo, and that it doesn't capture what is it that people love from Scooby-Doo in the first place. So overall, I just feel like this is going to be a factor that it will be a bit of a wait and see. And oh my God, I don't know why I just thought of this right now, but technically we could also throw in the 2020 Scoob movie as well. And say what you will with that feature. And I mean, I know the reception of that is definitely better than something like Velma, but that does count as something that it is another attempt from Hollywood of trying to reboot Scooby-Doo, and that, you know, they would have character, you know, and that they would try to tell their own version of how the Mystery Gang all got together and stuff like that. So in that regards, I can imagine that there is another possibility that this live action Scooby-Doo series could end up like Scoob as well. But ultimately, I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. I don't know when this is going to be coming out. I can imagine maybe like with the amount of time they'll need, like either late 2026 or maybe in 2027 as well. But ultimately, we'll see with how things go with this Scooby-Doo series. And with that said, now I would like to go and pass this on to the chat wall. And I'd like to ask you all, what do you think of this live action Scooby-Doo prequel series? Do you think this is going to work out? Do you think this idea is going to bomb hard? Let me know what you think, especially if you are a fan of Scooby-Doo. I would love to know your thoughts. In fact, let's go and do something a little bit interesting also. And I'm going to go into the chat wall where I would like to go and ask you all. So hold on a sec. Let's go and create a poll. Do you think this Scooby-Doo Netflix series will be good? There we go. And now we're going to go and say yes. And then we're going to go and write no. And then we'll see how the poll is going to go. All right. Anyways, let's see what the chat wall has to say. This new Scooby-Doo series is interesting as a Scooby fan. However, I hope the new show will still have comedic elements while having dramatic tones. Although, if I were to see a new Scooby-Doo cartoon show, I want it to be a follow-up to A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, which focuses on the gang as preteens. Well, I mean, technically, a sequel to A Pup Named Scooby-Doo is called Scooby-Doo. That's the thing. I mean, like, yeah, we see that, yeah, like, A Pup Named Scooby-Doo is seeing the gang as kids, but then you also got Scooby-Doo, which they are teenagers. I mean, like, I know it's a bit specific to say, like, preteens where they're in the middle, and I mean, I guess you could have that element of, like, a coming-of-age proportion where now, like, you see them no longer becoming kids and learning to grow up and stuff, because, let's be honest, you never really see that element in the old Scooby-Doo series, because, like, there is that very repetitive formula that they go, and I mean, safe to say that you don't see much character arcs going on amongst the gang themselves, but I guess, like, this could be an idea that could work out in the right hands if you found enough creativity in order to truly make that work. Anyways, Warner Brothers, word of advice, stop trying to make an adult, dark, and gritty Scooby-Doo happen. It's not gonna happen. I'll give credit, this sounds a bit better than Velma. Everyone seems in character, but with the writers that they got with their track record, yeah, I think I'm gonna skip this. However, there is a slim chance that it turns out good. I'd be shocked for sure, but I'll still tip my hat to the idea if it works. But with this ain't it, Chief. Exactly. Like, it's hard to really determine if this really is a good idea, and there is a chance that it will, but it's just that when you get the context that, oh, the guys who just did that Cowboy Bebop live action Netflix series, they're going to try again with Scooby-Doo, it's just, I look at that and I'm like, are you sure this is a good idea? I don't know. All right. Let's see what other comments here. I'll be honest, I kind of hope that the show is just really, really melodramatically dumb. I know that means I know that's mean or reductive to say, but I think about how people hate watch Riverdale, that when people talk about it, it sounds so stupid and over the top that they can't stop watching. Also, most films and TV things are moving away from real dogs, so expect Pup Scooby to be either a nightmare or a cutie pie they won't use too much for budget reasons. You know, that is an interesting idea, and I'm kind of surprised that we don't see that already, that if honestly, that would be a great idea if someone would go and make a parody of Riverdale, that they would go and take like one of those classic IPs and that they would go and actually try to make some kind of a satire out of those shows that try to be exaggeratingly dark and gritty with a franchise that just feels out of place for that tone. That would be a great idea. And I can imagine Scooby-Doo would actually make a great template. Like, that would actually be like a great idea to make Scooby-Doo like a parody of Riverdale. That could be something. You might be onto something there. And by the way, going back into the poll that I have made, it looks like, well, most of you, not all, but it looks like 60% of those who have voted actually said that you actually have good feelings and that you think this could turn out to be good. Now, there is that 40% of you who said no, but still, though, we got some interesting results where at least most of you have said that, yes, it will be good. All right. Anyways, as a more casual Scooby-Doo fan, I'm kind of mixed. On one hand, I do like the idea of trying something new and fresh with Scooby-Doo, but on the other hand, the writers of Cowboy Bebop as well, it does have me concerned. Not to mention after Velma, it has me worried with how this could go. And honestly, I'm just hoping for the best. Honestly, after the Powerpuff Girls live action series trailer leaked, it does have me concerned. Exactly. Like, there are some things to be worried about, but I think we're going to get a little bit more of an answer when we do see a trailer, but again, that's not going to be for like a long, long time. Let's see, any other comments for me to go and read? Well, it looks like I'll have one more, and then we're going to go and move on to the next break. So I feel pretty iffy about this announcement. I may like Scooby-Doo as a kid, but this seems a bit out of place for me. Since this is made by the creators of the Cowboy Bebop live-action series, I might have my doubts, but I could be wrong. But if this does do any good, then I might give it a watch. But I won't give my hopes up too high since I feel like the Scooby-Doo franchise is becoming at a low point nowadays. Also, does anybody remember the fan-made live-action YouTube series Mystery Incorporated? Honestly, no, I don't even recall that at all. All right, but with that said, though, it is now time that we're going to go on to our next break. And when we do come back, oh boy, for the rest of the episode, it's gonna get spicy because we're gonna get into the realm of some controversies that's been going around the internet. And the first one we have here, well, looks like we are going back once again into talking about the Snow White remake, so stay tuned for that. All right, welcome back. And on our next story, we will be talking about Disney's live-action remake of Snow White. And I will say right now, just recently, I did put out my review of the movie. And I will say, and I will get more into this later into the story, but it is very much a mixed bag. It's not an absolute disaster that many people would think it would be. There are some good things to go and mention about the film, but at the same time, it's not really the kind that would be worth going to the big screen to actually go and watch it. So yeah, for me at least, it is very much mixed. But it looks like a lot of people got word about the fact that, yeah, maybe it's not a major priority to go see it in theaters. And that's why so far with the Disney live action remake of Snow White, it is not doing well in theaters. And it looks like it's going towards a direction where it will most likely bomb at the box office. Not just flop, but something that Disney is going to be losing a good amount of money. But as I mentioned before, I'm not necessarily too worried about Disney because, let's be honest, whatever they're going to lose on Snow White, they'll be able to make it back on Lilo and Stitch. But the fact is, though, considering that it is not doing well at the box office, a lot of people are wondering, where did it go wrong for this movie? How is it that this live-action remake did not do well for Disney compared to some of the others? Well, apparently, some people are pointing towards one specific person whom they say is responsible for the failure of Snow White, and that is Rachel Zegler. Now, this is not necessarily anything new that Rachel Zegler would find herself in controversy related to her role as Snow White in the movie. But in this case here, it looks like the controversy has been revived largely due to this article here from Variety called Inside Disney's Snow White Fiasco, Death Threats, Beefed Up Security, and Social Media Guru for Rachel Zegler. In which, in this article, it really goes into a lot where it heavily points the finger towards Rachel Zegler onto how she played a significant role in the downfall of Snow White and why people didn't go and immediately watch the movie on the big screen. Often pointing towards her political statements that she has made on social media, rather it be using her platform when she was promoting the Snow White movie, where she would go and slip in a comment to say Free Palestine, or that she would go and criticize Donald Trump not long after he won the 2024 election. So in terms of those aspects, this article at least is claiming that because of those instances and because of some of Rachel Zegler's attitude in the past as well, it made her a controversial figure where it did end up hindering the performance of Snow White at the box office, basically labeling that it is her fault. Now, this is not the only article that would go and accuse Rachel Zegler of making Snow White fail in theaters. There was also the Hollywood Reporter, which went and reported that the producer the producer of Snow White, Mark Platt, not him, but his son Jacob Platt, also went onto social media and he blamed the failure of Snow White onto Rachel Zegler and called her a spoiled brat and stuff like that. So there are those aspects that they would go and immediately point they point the finger towards Rachel Zegler, that saying that it is her fault that Snow White bombed at the box office. But is that actually the case, though? Now, I know that this is not necessarily the first time that I've talked about it here. In fact, I did address all the controversies and all that nonsense onto my review, pretty much saying that it's just a prominent example of how culture wars don't matter, and that the people who would go and try to enable it, well, these are people with like serious self-esteem issues that they should be spending their time in therapy instead of enabling themselves or trying to be a part of like these stupid culture wars. So from there, I've already talked about that piece, but if I may take a moment to go back a little bit into my thoughts onto Snow White. Now, as I said, it is very much a bit of a mixed bag, But I will say, in terms of the things that are positive, the things that are actually good, I would actually consider Rachel Zegler to be one of them. Even though I am not a fan of the songs at all, I just find them to be very forgettable. Even as we speak, I can't really think of like one song that came from the movie, or at least one of the new songs. But in the case with Rachel Zegler, I think she did a great job with her performance as Snow White and even as a singer. Honestly, I believe she really made the most out of the materials that she was given in order to make the experience to make it watchable, to make it tolerable at the very least, bringing us this new version of Snow White that is, a lot more developed. And even though some could say a bit more modern, but there's a lot more to it to this Snow White compared to the original 1937 version. So in that regards, and by the way, I just want to also point out that I am not the only one who has that sentiment. I'll even say that it is almost unanimous with both critics and audiences, in which they say that one of, if not the best thing from the Snow White remake is actually Rachel Zegler. That if there is a reason to go and actually watch the movie is because of her acting and her singing, that she really did stand out as the best performer in the feature. So it is rather weird to see how, even though the media is trying to say it's Rachel Zegler's fault, the word of mouth would go and say otherwise. They say that it is the reason to go and see the movie. Is that even though, yeah, she has her fair share of controversies, that she's actually the best thing from Snow White. And if there is a reason to go and check it out, it would be because of her. So there seems to be a bit of that massive disconnect between what the media is trying to say with the failure of Snow White and with what people have been saying, or at least those who have actually went to go and see it. And not to mention that this also exposes a massive hypocrisy when it comes to Snow White. When it comes to pinning the blame on Rachel Zegler, there feels like this massive hypocrisy where it's her fault, even though there is technically another actress in the movie who has gone into the same controversies, but because it's completely different reasons, people are giving her a free pass. And that is Gal Gadot. Because Gal Gadot is also another controversial figure in the Snow White remake, but it's for the opposite reasons of Rachel Zegler, where Rachel would go and say free Palestine and be very unapologetic about it. Gal Gadot, on the other hand, she would go and support Israel. Like, it is actually known that when the war in Gaza began, she immediately went to go and showed her support to Israel. And even when she, by the way, thank you, Omid, for being the new fish here. But as I was saying, with Gal Gadot, when she would go and, like, there was one time she would want to go and demand for a ceasefire and stop the violence, but then one of Israel's people attacked her, and that immediately made her submit. So she is known as a pro-Israel person. And in that regard, that became like a whole controversy in itself. I mean, say what you will about the controversies of Rachel Zegler, but I've also seen a fair share of people who have been very upset with Gal Gadot, and that people are upset with the Snow White remake because of the casting of Gal Gadot. I've even seen my fair share of people who have actually said that they refuse to go and watch the Snow White remake because Gal Gadot is in it. And I mean, it's not like Disney or people didn't know about Rachel Zegler's stance, or that people are upset with her with it. You know, that like even just recently, Gal Gadot just had her star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And there were many pro-Palestinian protesters calling her out. And I believe I heard that the star got destroyed not long afterwards. So at that point, it does highlight this sheer hypocrisy. Again, the fact that for some reason you got these two actresses who are equally controversial and for like a little bit of the same thing, but with what they said, though, are kind of the opposites. But the treatment is just totally different. With Gal Gadot, people are looking at how she's being how she's been treated, how people are reacting to her, and especially with some of her political statements. And they paint her as like a total victim, that no, it's not Gal Gadot who's at fault because she shows support to Israel. No, it's everyone else who is the problem. It's the people who would go after her that are all the problem. That it's their fault. So we must go and protect Rachel Zegler. Or no, we must go and protect Gal Gadot. That's what I mean. Sorry about that. But then you look at Rachel Zegler, whom she's in a very similar position as Gal Gadot, where people would keep on attacking her because of her political stance and stuff like that. But then they would say, oh no, it's not everyone else who's the problem. It's Rachel Zegler. She's the one that's being so she's not being careful with what she's saying on social media, and it's causing people to go absolutely ballistic. And the thing is, I just want to go and point out that both of these actresses have been getting a massive amount of harassment and even their fair share of death threats. And I mean, it is wrong either way. Like that, in that regards, it is taking it too far. Regardless if it's either Gal Gadot or Rachel Zegler, sending death threats is not cool. But honestly, it's so stupid to see how they would be so defensive with Gal Gadot and try to be like, oh, we must protect her at all times. But even though it's very well known that many Trump supporters have been sending death threats to Rachel Zegler on a regular basis, they do nothing about it. They just say like, oh, well, it's just part of the course. Boys will be boys. Am I right? So that is so that's why I want to go and highlight the sheer hypocrisy. And why is it that very few people are even buying into this narrative in the first place? And speaking of which, by the way, not only is there that aspect of the hypocrisy, but I will say, though, that at least in terms of the factor with Rachel Zegler, it just makes it feel like this feels like propaganda, that this is nothing more but just pro-Israel propaganda in order to go and not just antagonize, but full-on demonize people who support Palestine instead of those who support Israel. It feels, like, I know I may sound a bit conspiratorial, but it feels like there's this whole system that's going on that's forcing people to try to be pro-Israel or try to do their best to desperately try to paint Israel as the good guys, and anyone who says otherwise would be like, try to be painted as the villain. And that's kind of like what we are seeing right over here, is the fact that because of her more progressive stance, they want to go and try to pin the blame on Rachel Zegler and try to like punish her, because of her, because of how she's more outspoken about these issues. They want to try to make her look like the bad guy and try to say that, oh, if you say bad things about Israel, then movies like Snow White are going to bomb at the box office. Although just by saying that, I think that is easily one of the easiest ways to make people pro-Palestinian. If you support Israel, then you'll end up making films like the Snow White remake bomb at the box office. So make sure you don't say free Palestine, or else you'll end up getting less movies like the Snow White remake. No, but anyways, going back to what I was talking about, this is pretty much why this entire piece right over here, it absolutely backfired. Like, I can guarantee you that Variety and the person who wrote the article, yeah, they got significant backlash. And then there is also the factor of Jacob Platt, who tried to go and say that Rachel Zegler was being a spoiled brat and stuff like that. Let me just say, boy, you are a nipple baby. You are the son of the producer, Mark Platt. You have no right to go and call anyone a spoiled brat. And trust me, I am not alone in that sentiment. Because, my God, that dude got massive backlash over what he said and had to go and delete that post entirely. So yeah, even that didn't really work out for him as well. And overall, like, honestly, even if it's not necessarily like this this conspiracy built by pro-Israel people, there is one thing that I do believe is that, yeah, like there's Disney especially, they're letting this occur and they're letting this happen because this is one thing that it's not just with Disney, but this is very common with all the other studios out there, but they refuse to hold accountability. Whenever they have a movie that just bombed hard at the box office, they don't want to go and take the L, and they want to do everything in their power to try to pin the blame on something else so that they don't learn a lesson and that they continue doing with what they want to do. And some studios, they have their own different ways in order to go and actually cope with whenever they would face a loss. Like Sony Pictures, for example, whenever they would have to take an L, whenever like one of their big movies bomb hard at the box office, like any of their recent Spider-Man spin-off films, they would just be in complete denial. They would just go and say, no, it didn't bomb. It wasn't a failure. It did good. It was successful. We're going to eventually make our money back. There's all the other things like, the streaming and the re-releases. It's going to be fine. We'll be all right. They would do stuff like this. And as for Disney, they're going to go, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they're doing this because they just want to find a scapegoat so that people don't blame them for it. That people don't look into the reasons that Disney is the one who made it a box office bomb. And I'll even say right now, Double Toasted actually made a fantastic video where they actually discuss about what actually made it a box office bomb. Like, they did not hesitate to say that the culture war against Rachel Zegler or Rachel Zegler herself had nothing to do with it. They actually went to go and explain that there are several other factors. You got the terrible CGI on the dwarves. The Snow White IP is not as strong, or it doesn't strongly resonate with people as much as the more nostalgic IPs from the Disney Renaissance, like The Little Mermaid or Beauty and the Beast or The Lion King and stuff like that. There's also the factor of it's another Disney live action remake and that people are starting to grow tired of that. And then there's also the factor that, well, nowadays, unfortunately, people aren't likely to go and watch a movie on the big screen as much as they would in the pre-pandemic days. Like, there are those several factors that they would go and highlight. In fact, there's also another article I want to go and show you. This is from Slash Film, in which they actually made an article that actually is in defense of Rachel Zegler, pretty much calling out a lot of the arguments against her and pretty much saying that this is not the case. So overall, I just want to go and bring this discussion here because even though we have seen a lot of fingers pointing towards Rachel Zegler, it's obvious that she is just a scapegoat. And considering that she is this openly progressive woman of color, it makes her a very easy target for reactionaries to go and immediately attack on her and fixate on trying to go after her as much as possible, instead of thinking of the other possible and more reasonable reasons, that's a bit repetitive to say, but the more reasonable explanations as to how Snow White failed at the box office. That this is all just to go and pin the blame onto the scapegoat instead of the actual reasons, especially when Disney doesn't want to go and learn and they don't want to accept the reality that maybe there is a possibility that people are growing tired of these live action remakes. Because if that actually is the case, then Disney would have to go and completely retrace their steps. They got to go back to the drawing board and change up a lot of their schedule, because in the future, they want to make a lot more of these live action remakes. And if they have to stop now, then they have to reconsider what else can they do in order to go and make movies. So it would just really go and mess up with their plans entirely. So it just makes it a lot easier to blame it on an actress than it is blaming it on themselves. So I just want to go and bring up this discussion. All right, so with that said, now I would like to go on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what did you think of the whole conversation or the whole debate if Rachel Zegler is to blame for the failure of Snow White? Do you think her controversy is a factor to the movie's failure? Do you think she's completely innocent in all this? Let me know what you all think. All right, so let's see. I am sorry to say this again, but people, including colors, trans people, and women in our community, are not going to watch Snow White. It's Gal Gadot's fault. I am surprised that the director's son blamed Rachel and he didn't care about what's happening in Palestine. Of course, Disney is not donating aid to Palestine is a crime, and we already know that they don't care about diversity like they did with Win or Lose or the upcoming Hoppers. Like we Muslims didn't do anything wrong. All right. Well, and that you see right over here is an example of someone who is completely like detracted from Snow White because of Gal Gadot. So, I mean, if people are not going to go and see it because of Gal Gadot, why is it that you want to blame Rachel Zegler? Anyways, I'm going to be very honest and open about JT. The hate is severely overblown. I feel very sorry for Rachel Zegler. She didn't deserve the hate. But anyways, yes, the hypocrisy is really weird and stupid. Gal Gadot should have been the one who deserved the criticism, and justifiably so. But aside from that, the true criticism we should share is the 7 dwarves or the 7 clever boys. They look very creepy and weird. I can't stop comparing Dopey to Alfred E. Newman from Mad. And that's also an interesting thing with Gal Gadot, is that even though she has made her fair share of controversies, she would be more of a detriment to the movie than Rachel Zegler is, because honestly, at least in my opinion, or this is not just my opinion, but I've seen many critics also say the same, Gal Gadot sucked in the film. I mean, sure, she looked the part, but her acting was just completely flat. Like, honestly, I would consider her to be among the worst Disney villains in a live-action remake, alongside Jafar in the Aladdin remake. She was just unpleasant. So again, it's just weird and very hypocritical, where you would have one actress where she sucked in the movie and she made her own controversial political statements, and yet you got another actress who's like debatably the best part of the movie and has made controversial statements, and yet you're pinning the blame onto her. That's honestly just weird right there. All right, let's see. I honestly had zero interest in seeing the Snow White remake, but I'm not surprised it might flop. Honestly, while I do not agree with some of the stuff Rachel Zegler has said, but the hate has been overblown. Honestly, I have more of an issue with Gal Gadot and her stance with Israel, and this is not the only movie that has that situation. It happened with Captain America: Brave New World with having an Israel actress. Exactly, but you're not going to see the media go after Disney for that. Like, you're not going to see many people say, like, oh, well, Captain America: Brave New World didn't do well mainly because of that one actress who supports Israel. Honestly, that's the unfortunate situation that we live in here. Like, so far, the media, and especially Hollywood, they're not ready to go and say that, oh, well, movies are not doing well because of pro-Israel people. They're not ready to go and say free Palestine just yet. All right, let's see what other comments would there be. I am so tired hearing about the controversy of Snow White and Rachel Zegler. First of all, leave Rachel Zegler alone. She didn't do anything wrong here and just doing her job. Second, there are actual problems happening in the world right now that need to be discussed instead of this. Years from now, people are going to regret their terrible actions towards Rachel Zegler. Just leave her alone. That's all I ask. Well, I mean, if we are seeing some of the recent, some of the recent patterns that's been going on, I mean, like after the whole, after the Little Mermaid remake, it looks like many people have left Halle Bailey alone, and her career has been going fine as well. Best case scenario, I think like after the Snow White remake and once like summer rolls along, people will be able to leave Rachel Zegler alone, and that she'll be able to have her prominent career. Like, I'm not too worried about how this is going to affect Rachel Zegler's reputation or her career or anything like that. Honestly, she's going to do fine. And like I've heard, like within Hollywood, she is still very well respected. So in that regards, she's going to be okay. Let's see what other comments. I think I'll read one more and then we're going to go on to our next break here. So let's see what else. Okay, let's see. I really hate that Rachel Zegler is getting all the blame and the hate for a movie being less than good. Anthony Gramuglia actually put a very good video. Dude. Okay, I know who you're talking about. Oh my God, that dude's awesome. Anyways, actually put a good video saying the Snow White movie was dead on arrival and that Rachel Zegler isn't the problem. Rachel, a woman born in 2001, doesn't like a movie from the 1930s. Why are we surprised? She's allowed to be not into that movie for that time. She said cringe things and is a young progressive Latina woman. That's her biggest crime. She didn't murder your dog. Honestly, I very much agree. I mean, like, I don't agree with everything Rachel Zegler has done or said. Like, yeah, I completely disagree with her statement on the Snow White remake, and I feel like it's a lot more controversial that she was in Spellbound than anything that she has said on social media. Like, she deserved some criticism for that thing, but since people didn't really care, well, then you miss your chance on actually criticizing Rachel Zegler for a legitimate thing. So, in that regard, yeah, this is just, so yeah, like, honestly, I get it. And yeah, like, I do agree with that comment here where she did say cringe things, but like, that's honestly her worst crime. I mean, I've done the same thing as well. I know I've said a lot of cringe things in the past, but that doesn't mean that like, you don't see people desperately trying to go and like cancel me just for saying those things. I mean, like, people are really just going, like, really, it's more the case that Rachel Zegler's biggest crime is that, again, she's an openly progressive woman of color. Not just the fact that she's a Latina woman, but just the fact that she's a woman of color. Apparently, that gives her free, that gives people the right to go and immediately send her death threats. So, yes, overall, this is just to go and say that, yes, the Snow White remake is a bomb, but we ain't gonna blame Rachel Zegler. And most people, at the very least, understand that. All right, so we're going to go on to our next break, and we are going to go on to another controversy, but this time around, it will be regards to another actor. But I'm going to say that this actor definitely deserves the backlash much more than Rachel Zegler, especially the fact when he is being labeled as a scab. So stay tuned for that. All right, welcome back. Now, on our next story, we're going to go on to another piece of controversy with a different actor. But in this case, it's going to be a bit of a different situation. This is not going to be based on like a movie or anything like that. It's actually a bit more related to video games. In fact, some of you might be aware that there is an actor strike that is still going on. Yes, what I'm specifically talking about is the SAG-AFTRA video game strike. And that thing has been going on for quite some time. In fact, I believe it's been over half a year now that they have been going on strike. Or even like, I think they might have like been around or even surpassed the 200, the 200-day mark. So yeah, actors are still going on strike. They're still going after companies, and they're demanding pretty much the same things that actors and writers have been demanding back in 2023. Of course, there is better pay, better benefits, but especially it's in order to have better protection against AI. That's one of the biggest, if not the biggest thing that they are demanding. But with video game companies, unfortunately, they are a lot more stubborn with that. So that's why it's been a lot harder for voice actors in video games to go and actually accomplish what they are seeking with this strike. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that they're no longer voicing video games in general. There have been a whole bunch of companies that have made interim agreements where they do agree with the demands that the SAG-AFTRA actors have been demanding so that they could go and continue to work while giving them the AI protections that they are asking for. But then there are other companies such as MiHoYo, for example, the studio that brought you Genshin Impact, who would just flat out refuse, that they don't even want to make that kind of agreement. And of course, with those Genshin Impact actors, they are now currently on strike. But it looks like with Hoyo, they're not going to be waiting for them to come back or to go and make a deal. Instead, they decided they're going to go and start the process of recasting. Yes, this is in regards to the controversy related to Genshin Impact and specifically related to the character with, by the name, by the way, I just want to say right now, I'm not that familiar with Genshin Impact, so there is a chance that I might mispronounce some names with, Kinich. Now, specifically with this character of Kinich, now, like, his original actor is currently on strike, but now Hoyo decided to go and actually bring in a new actor to go and play the character, and his name is, I believe, Jacob Takanashi. In fact, Takanashi was the one who went and actually made an announcement regarding his casting, to which he stated here, reading from my source on PC Gamer, this is a statement that he put out on Twitter, where he said, "I am honored to join the English cast of Genshin Impact as the voice of Kinich. Taking up the mantle of Malipo is a privilege, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to carry the flame from the previous flame bearer, John, specifically John Patnobe, who did an incredible job. Those are big shoes to fill, and I promise to give it my all. Out of respects for him, for Hoyoverse, and for you, the fans. Thank you to Diana for their analyzing direction and for helping me navigate the intricate of this incredible game, and to Side Tokyo and Hoyoverse for the honor of bringing Kinich to life. I'm deeply grateful for the privilege of entertaining you all." Now, that seems to be interesting, and that is a very nice message that Jacob did put out. There's just one problem, though. John did not pass the torch. He didn't go and, like, give his blessings for him to go and be the voice. In fact, John is currently striking with all the other actors, and he did not ask to go and be recasted. In fact, he actually did put out a statement. So if I may switch here to another source here from Eurogamer, this is what John has to go and say. He stated here, "I've been withholding voiceover services during the SAG-AFTRA interactive strike because Hoyo/Cognosphere wouldn't offer AI protections in the form of a SAG interim agreement. They kept my character's dialogue silent for months, all while I have made the difficult decision to continue not going in until an interim agreement was signed, and this ultimately was why I was recast. They continue not, now obviously a recast is not what I wanted. I'd hope that any progress behind the scenes would be made and I could come back safely, or that if recast auditions went out of my colleagues, or that if recast auditions went out, my colleagues wouldn't read for them. Unfortunately, I was wrong." He then also continued by saying that Genshin Impact was a comfort game during the early parts of the pandemic and called the role a dream. I would and can return if Hoyo invites me back and sign an interim. I stand by my choices regardless of the outcome. Also, the strike is still ongoing. Please don't believe disinformation on the internet. And it is worth noting that this recast news did not go well with not just John, but with all the other Genshin Impact actors. In fact, there are a few quotes here, like one who was openly upset of the recast news is actually the voice of Paimon, Karina Boetger, in which she stated, "There is a huge difference when you take on the role of an actor who is striking for AI protections. You are no castmate of mine." And this is a comment that is towards Jacob, not John. She would go on and it even says over here, replying to a response asking what to do in Hoyo's shoes, Boetger said, "I would sign the SAG interim agreement so that all my actors can have AI protections, and then they could come back right away to voice these characters with no gap." There's also another actor who also made a statement here. The voice of Albedo Coyote stated, any video game can bring back their full voice cast immediately during the strike once they agree to enforceable AI protections via a SAG interim agreement, and the game can still keep its non-union actors after doing so. This is not a union actor versus non-union actor conflict. The goal of the strike is to ensure that this craft isn't lost to AI. We got a common goal, which is why so many non-union actors are holding the line alongside the union castmates, despite having no obligations to do so. So that's pretty much the whole controversy that is going on. It's the fact that one of these characters got completely recast, and it feels like a massive sabotage to the actors, and especially it feels like a complete dick move where Hoyo doesn't feel like a company that should be trusted, because you never know what their intentions with what they may want to do with AI, especially when it comes to the characters and with the voices. And this is not to mention that Jacob Takanashi is, of course, getting massive backlash because of all this. And now he is pretty much being labeled as a full-on scab by his fellow actors. Now, what's very interesting to go and note with this controversy is that there have also been a lot of people who would go onto his defense, because some have pointed out that with Takanashi, he is actually an actor who lives in Japan. And because of that, some people have pointed out that, well, maybe he took on the role because he didn't know there was a whole strike that was going on. He didn't know, like, since he was living in Japan, he was just pretty much oblivious of the fact that, you know, that there was a strike, and that he didn't know that he was taking on someone else's role, or that, you know, that the original actor didn't necessarily quit. So there was a lot of that has been going around. But is that actually the case? Now, there are some actors out there who have actually done a lot of research into this, and they actually found some interesting things in regards to Jacob Takanashi. And it is, or did I say Japan? Oh, did I say Japan Takanashi? Sorry, I meant Jacob Takanashi. I don't know if I made that mistake. Sorry, folks. But yeah, if I may go over here. Now, this is a post that is made by Little Karibo, who you may know as the creator of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged series. And at one point, he was also a prominent voice actor as well. And he is a very strong vocal supporter of the actors during the SAG-AFTRA interactive strike. So, like, he, you know, like, if you want to get any updates onto what's going on, if you just follow him, he'll let you know for sure onto, like, how is the strike going, and, like, you know, which companies are good by agreeing with the interim agreement and which ones are screwing actors over and stuff like that. But he found the original post that did claim that the voice actor was from Japan and didn't know. And this is specifically a post from Nathan Noakes, in which he stated here that I spoke to the new voice actor who lives and works in Japan, and he didn't even know what was going on. He came into an onslaught of criticism and didn't know anything about the strike or SAG, since SAG isn't in Japan. Blows my mind. To which Little Karibo said, I find it extremely extremely hard to believe that a voice actor from Houston, Texas, who is so engaged with indie voice actors or indie voiceover, auditioning for projects being cast in America, and is following several striking voice actors who have been super vocal about the strike, did not know about the strike. Do elaborate, Jacob. Now, to go and clarify what Little Karibo is saying right over here, one thing to go and clarify is that Jacob Takanashi is not actually Japanese. He is actually a full-on American from Houston, Texas. And it's actually later confirmed that he doesn't actually live in Japan anymore. He didn't fully live in Japan, or like throughout his life, a lot of it is not even in Japan. He only allegedly he lived in Japan for only 2.5 years, and that's pretty much it. But apparently, because of his last name and because of the time that he spent, a lot of people were convinced that he just lived in Japan. And it's also very suspicious because when you do go onto Jacob's social media, you will find that, yes, he does follow a lot, and I do mean a lot, of voice actors who are very vocal about the strike. Like, yeah, there are some that are a little bit more quiet about it or don't talk about it as much, but there are some that their posts would be very commonly be about the strike itself. And if you would have these people that you would go and follow, then yeah, you would see on a regular basis people talking about the SAG-AFTRA interactive strike. So in that regards, it's either Jacob doesn't go onto his social media platforms and that he would only use it specifically for business purposes and doesn't actually see what people are actually saying, or maybe there is the fact that, well, maybe he actually was very aware about the strike that's actually been going on. So really it's at the point where the evidence that's being shown is not necessarily true to who he actually is. And the funny thing is that let's say theoretically that what's been said about Jacob is actually true, that he is fully native to Japan, that he somehow seems to be fully unaware about the SAG-AFTRA strike that is going on, and that he took on the role of Kinich without knowing that he's taking the role from someone else. You know that he can always just step down and make an apology. He could realize the mistake that he has made and say, I'm sorry, I didn't know about the strike. I didn't know that the actor didn't step down from his role, so I'm going to go and step aside in respects to John and to my fellow actors and go support the strike. He can go and actually make that statement, and yet he has yet to actually do so. And there are a lot of signs that even point to the fact that it's not just the fact that, it's not that he is oblivious to it. There is a strong possibility that he knows very well what he is doing. And there has actually been some posts that actually did reveal who he is, and that this Jacob guy is not necessarily a nice person. He's not a good person at all, and someone who may not deserve to have an acting career in general. Because some of the stuff that's actually been revealed about him, that apparently he's someone who is, let's just say, quite invested in culture wars, or someone who enjoys the right-wing bigoted culture, someone who unapologetically enjoys saying slurs and making bigoted posts and stuff like that. And not to mention that he has some very troubling connections with two things. One is with Anime Matsuri. And if you guys don't know Anime Matsuri, it is known as one of the worst and easily the most infamous anime convention out there. Like, this is a place that anyone, regardless if they're from Japan or in the US or whatever, they know not to go into Anime Matsuri, because it is bad news that the creators are highly toxic people, that they don't even bring in much anime people. Instead, they would just bring in like alt-right grifters. Like they would just bring in people like The Quartering or Critical Drinker or Nick Recchietta and stuff like that. Use them as their special guests instead of actual anime people. And then there's another connection, and that is with Vic Mignogna, the notorious former voice actor and sexual predator that has often been deemed in the industry and by lawyers as the R. Kelly of anime. Yes, Jacob is one of those people that is considered to be a Vic Mignogna supporter. And the reason why I also bring up Anime Matsuri is that he was one of those people that tried to help enable Vic Mignogna to try to bring him back into voice acting with a studio that Anime Matsuri wants to go and be built. Now, the reason why I bring this up is that these are all signs that pretty much point out that there is a strong likelihood that Jacob knows exactly what he is doing, that he is very well aware of the strike and is trying to take advantage of the situation by taking on roles that have been left vacant because the actors have been on strike. Ironically enough, this is very much like, when Republicans go into like their xenophobic comments and they're saying that immigrants are stealing jobs from hardworking Americans. That's literally what is going on. Jacob is that alleged immigrant that is stealing jobs from hardworking Americans, which are the SAG-AFTRA actors. And that also brings up another major piece of irony. This is honestly a major reason why Republicans should be supporters of the union. If you really do believe that immigrants are stealing people's jobs, shouldn't you be supporting unions so that workers can have better protection, so that they don't get their jobs being suddenly swapped when their bosses decided, oh, I'm going to go and hire these immigrants because they're cheaper than actual Americans? I'm just saying. So from there, it feels so from there, this is why I want to go and bring up why Jacob right now is getting massive backlash and why he is being considered a full-on scab in this situation. But you know what the craziest thing in here is? The thing is that is truly insane about this entire case is the reactions from fans of Genshin Impact. Because believe it, and this doesn't necessarily reflect on all of them, but a good chunk of them, especially on Reddit and on Twitter, apparently they are on the side of Jacob here. They think that the bad guys are not Jacob, are not Hoyo, but apparently the actors and SAG-AFTRA. They think that the unions are the bad guys because of the whole situation. They think, honestly, they've been believing a lot of the misinformation that is being spread by alt-right grifters like Hiro Hey, where they believe that for some reason that the actors are to blame and that Jacob seems to be purely innocent in this entire situation. And their arguments have no merit because a lot of which are just excuses that can easily be proven wrong with who Jacob actually is. It's honestly just ridiculous to see that their conclusion is just completely in the wrong direction here and don't want to blame Hoyo because they don't want to protect their actors from AI or anything like that. It is freaking ridiculous. And I'm just going to go and say this right over here, that honestly, what they say against the actors and against the union and stuff like that, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what a bunch of uneducated gamers or what right-wing grifters have to say in this entire situation. Their excuses have absolutely no base in this matter. And what they're doing is just spreading this ridiculous propaganda against unions that clearly make no sense. So in that regards, honestly, I'm not worried about what they would have to say, even though right now they're just sending death threats to all the Genshin Impact actors. What they say really does not matter. And I'm going to say in this case right over here, when it comes to Jacob, this dude better take action in order to leave his role. Because what he is doing right now it's pretty much a death sentence for his career right there. Like, yeah, he'll have that short-term gain, but now he's going to be carrying this reputation in the long run of being a scab. And if there's one thing you do not become in the industry is a full-on scab. Case in point, maybe you guys remember that moment 2 years ago with Drew Barrymore, when she decided to go and resume her show, the Drew Barrymore show, even though the writer strike was still going on. And my God, was she raked over the coal, across the coals for that. Like, she got scolded, she got blasted, her reputation and her career was damaged from that. Like, it was so bad to the point where she had to go in reverse course, where she put her show back on hold and had to put in an apology. Now, thankfully, things did go better from Drew Barrymore from there, but it goes to show how the industry is completely against scabs. And this is especially the case with actors right over here. And honestly, this dude I am hoping that Jacob can do the right thing. If he wants to go and act again, he better go and step down from his position. No, it's clear that most people are not buying the whole freaking narrative that, oh, well, he's from Japan, he didn't know about the strike in the US. That would be like saying that, oh, well, I didn't know about it because I'm freaking Canadian. It doesn't matter what nationality you're in. If you follow what's been going on with other actors, then you obviously know very well. I'll even say that there have been a lot of Japanese actors who did express that they are aware of what's going on with the strike and that they show their support, because Japanese actors are also fighting to ensure that their voices are protected from AI. So in that regards, this dude better do something quick, and he better do it now if he wants to go and act more in the future, because in the position that he's in, he's done. His career is essentially canceled, and he's going to be made an example of why no one should be a scab in the acting industry. No one should be scabbing. Like, yes, acting can be very competitive, but it's all friendly competition altogether. Doing stuff like you cannot go and do something like, oh, you know, finders, keepers, losers, weepers. That doesn't work like that. Because in this case, people will take note of your actions and they're going to not want to go and work for you. All I can hope for right now is that Jacob, I'm just hoping that Jacob does have a day job, because at this point, after Genshin Impact, he won't have anything else. Especially if Hoyo has plans with AI where they're going to replace him with AI, with an AI voice for Kinich, then he'll just be left with nothing. All right, so with that said, now I would like to go onto the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, how do you feel about the Genshin Impact controversy? How do you feel about Jacob Takanashi taking the role from John for the position of being the voice of Kinich? Do you think that his reputation is screwed? And especially if you are a fan of Genshin Impact, I would like to know what you think here. All right. I'm honestly not familiar with Genshin Impact, but this is awful. The fact Jacob would go ahead and basically go full-on scabbing is just insulting. Also, with anti-woke grifters being okay with Jacob's actions, then again, what else do you expect from bigots who are still on Twitter? Exactly, man. The thing is, people like Hirohei, they don't care about Genshin Impact. They don't care about what's going on with this entire situation. They just care about capitalizing on propaganda, and especially just for the sake of promoting harassment against SAG-AFTRA actors. That's basically their biggest goal. That's just what they want to do. And it's kind of ridiculous people are still listening to freaking Hirohei in the first place. You'd think that after everything that's been proven with Vic Mignogna and that he's been full-on canceled, you would think that this guy wouldn't have a freaking career, or that he would be that people would think that he's not worth listening at all. The dude's not a real anime fan. He's a freaking grifter, and he deserves to be reported to get his channel taken down. Just like the all other deplorables who supported Vic Mignogna. They deserve to freaking starve in the streets. And honestly, with what's been said about Jacob, I feel like that's most likely the direction where he's heading as well, just like with all the other anti-union actors. Let's see. Whatever is actually true, this is very upsetting that a recast has happened during the strike. I never even heard of Genshin Impact. Once the strike is over, I could see Takanashi no longer working in the acting industry in North America. I view Takanashi on the level of Vic Mignogna for treatment of women. Also, I heard after the writer's strike ended, the original writers for Drew Barrymore's talk show quit because of the controversy, and Barrymore was forced to find new writers as a result. Exactly. There's a lot of serious consequences when it comes to scabbing. It's something that you do not want to deal with whatsoever. And it's even mentioned, even non-union actors don't want to deal with that mess because that's like immediate death for your career. And I feel like Jacob is going to be learning the hard way on that. Let's see. I only played Genshin Impact. I've only played a little of Genshin Impact, but I've never been dragged into it too much. But I must say, with the character Lena, she's my foxy mama. Look up the character and you'll know what I'm talking about. But I must say, this recasting is just outrageous, and Jacob sounds like he's becoming a big bigot. I just hate how culture wars really affect people's mindset and how it becomes a hate zone. We all learn a very valuable lesson here. Do not become a scab if you were, or you're doomed forever. Exactly. Well, I know there's not a lot that people are saying here, but I'll read one more comment. I would be disappointed in Jacob, but then again, given what you told about him, I shouldn't be that surprised. I mostly followed him when he voiced one of the leads in the indie show Far-Fetched. Now I can safely say screw him, and I hope Dave and Ashley can just fire him from Far-Fetched. Yeah, that's also another thing that I'm wondering. Like, this could be something that it's not just going to affect him on those projects in particular, on Genshin Impact, but this could also affect like some of the other roles. Like, if he is in Far-Fetched, then I wouldn't be surprised if we might see a recast of that pretty soon. All right, so with that said, we're going to go on to one more break, and when we do come back, we are going to get into the grand finale. And speaking of AI, by the way, we're going to go into the latest trend that AI has been causing on social media. However, is this actually something that will really fuel AI to become more powerful? Or could this actually be a massive weakness for it? Well, we'll find out after this. And now, everyone, it is time that we will go and cap this episode off with the grand finale. And for this grand finale, we are going to be looking into one of the latest trends that has been dominating social media. And yes, it is related with AI. Now, if you've been on social media, regardless of what it may be, rather it be like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, maybe even Blue Sky or anything like that, then there is a strong chance that you've seen at least one image that came out of this trend. And so far, as you can imagine, because of the use of AI, it got pretty controversial. And you'll know what I'm talking about when I will be talking, you'll know what I'm talking about when I'll be bringing up the Studio Ghibli AI trend. So what happened was that OpenAI, one of the biggest or probably the most prominent AI companies out there, they unleashed a new update related to ChatGPT. In which now ChatGPT has the ability to go and transform any picture that you send it, and they will go and turn it into an art style that people know from pop culture. Like, you could go and upload an image of yourself, and it will turn it into the style of The Simpsons or Family Guy or the Powerpuff Girls or anything like that. But the one thing that people use the most with it is that they want to go and take their images and try to transform that into something that looks like it came out of a Studio Ghibli film. In fact, the popularity of this was so big that even some fans have sent a special image to the founder and the head of OpenAI, Sam Altman, and he actually made it his profile pic, like just to really get on board with the whole trend of basically turning any picture into a Studio Ghibli AI image. And there have been plenty of examples that people would go and use it for. Of course, one of the most prominent ones being that they would go and turn some popular memes into the Studio Ghibli style. Like, for example, like you got the little girl who's like standing next to the fire and looking all smug-like. And then you got like the image of like the girl that's just, the attractive girl passing by, the guy just checking her out and his girlfriend being upset about it. Or the Turkish athlete in the 2024 Paris Olympics who only had his shirt, and he would be like, he would be shooting his gun, and like I think he got like either bronze medal or silver medal for it. And then there's also another way that people would go and turn movies into the Studio Ghibli style, rather it be like Empire Strikes Back, Scarface, The Godfather, Lord of the Rings, or they would just do their personal image and all that kind of stuff. So that is pretty much the latest thing that's been going on, is the fact that people have been turning Studio G, they've been pretty much turning whatever picture that they could find, and that they would turn it into a Studio Ghibli AI generated image. And as you could imagine, at the same time, there are people out there who would also go and try to use the technology for shocking purposes, that they would take provocative pictures and pretty much throw whatever ethics and morals out the window just to go and be edgy. Like, there have been a bunch of people who want to go and make a Studio Ghibli style image of 9/11 and stuff like that. So from there, of course, with the factor that it is being used with AI, you can imagine that for many people out there, it's something that is actually considered to go and like really cross the line. That people have taken it way too far with AI technology, and now it's really becoming an insult to art itself, especially with the fact that now they're using Studio Ghibli's art style in particular. In fact, one thing that is making its rounds once again, and you might have probably have seen it recently, is in regards to Hayao Miyazaki's comment that he made back in 2016, when there were some computer scientists who came into Studio Ghibli to go and present Hayao Miyazaki and the team at Studio Ghibli like some of the capabilities of what AI could do at the time, in order to go and let the computer to go and animate CG characters. And Miyazaki's reaction has been, let's just say, rather priceless. So let me just show you that little clip right here, just to refresh your memory. Actually, let's go back a little bit just to show you what the clips entails. Like, what is it that Hayao Miyazaki watched?
人工知能で動きを学習させたし
All right, let it refresh. Let it remind itself what video it's watching.
これ踊ってるように見えますけど、でこれは早く移動するっていうのを学習させたやつなんですね。これ頭を使って移動してるんですけど、基本痛覚とかないし、頭が大事だとかっていう概念がないんで、だからもう頭をもう普通の足のように使って移動してるっていう。この動きがとにかく気持ち悪いんで、ゾンビゲームの動きに使えるんじゃないかっていう、こういう人工知能を使うと多分人間が想像できない気持ち悪い動きができるんじゃないか。一応こんなことをやっています。
So, just to give you context, for those of you only listening, so they showed Studio Ghibli the AI generated animation that they have done with an attempt of a walk cycle, and they try to make an excuse that, oh, you know what? Considering the creepiness of the way they move, we could use that like in a zombie game. This is Hayao Miyazaki's reaction.
実際には
ね、毎朝この頃会わないけど、身体障害の友人がいるんですよ。そのハイタッチするんだけども大変なんですよ。彼の筋肉がこわばってる手と僕の手でこうハイタッチする。でその彼のことを思い出してね、僕はこれ面白いと思って見ることできないですよ。これを作る人たちは痛みとかそういうものについてね、何も考えないでやってるでしょ。極めて不愉快ですよね。そんなに気持ち悪いものをやりたいなら勝手にやってればいいだけで、僕はこれを自分たちの仕事をつなげたいとは全然思いません。極めて何か生命に対する侮辱を感じます。
これでもほとんど実験なので、
それは分かってます。
その世の中に見せてどうこうってそういうものじゃないんですよ。
それは本当によく分かってるつもりですけど、どこへたどり着きたいんですか。
まあ人間が描くのと同じように絵を描く機械
を作りたいんだ。
はい。
地球最後の日が近いって感じですね。それは人間の方が自信がなくなってくるから。
So, yeah, just to give you full context, Miyazaki's response, and many people have quoted this, that he pretty much said that it is an insult to life itself. Like, pretty much blasting these people for creating this. And he was, like, it just made him full-on upset. Even his producing buddy, Toshio Suzuki, like, he was even there, like, what is your goal? Like, what are you trying to do with this? So it's like, what did you expect out of this? And I gotta say, like, I know it sounds bad, but I just have to go and point out, like, this dude's reaction, like, oh my God, this face right over here, this is the face of a man who is reconsidering his life choices. This is someone that there is a very strong likelihood that he's not working the job he is right now. I don't think any of these guys are working in the jobs that they're doing. I don't know if like this dude is doing his dream of like building a machine that can draw pictures like humans do. I don't know if they're doing it, because if they created something that Hayao Miyazaki said that is an insult to life itself, and that it was legit filmed and was released to the public, these guys have a full-on career change. Like this guy's probably an accountant. This guy right here, he's like a receptionist. This guy right here, I don't know, you're probably still seeing him like drinking sake at a bar or something like that. I don't know. This dude is still trying to recover what Miyazaki has told him. But that's the whole thing. It's basically the fact to go and present how Hayao Miyazaki has expressed that he is full on against this technology. And keep in mind that this was back in 2016, and this thing is now resurfacing because it still rings true to this day. People are massively upset with the use of AI, with how they are being presented, because it pretty much discredits the artistry that is put onto it. Like, it pretty much discredits and takes away any value of the hard work that is being put onto the Studio Ghibli films. Like like I said, the artistry, the craftsmanship, the years that it takes in order to produce some of the most beautiful animation that you could ever find in the industry. And then you got something like this coming in, trying to replicate it with no effort, with no craftsmanship whatsoever. It's just a computer that just full on generates an art piece for people to go and look at. And that's pretty much it. It pretty much shows the moral or ethical aspects of it just thrown right out the window, just for the sake of reactionaries to have a new toy and just like, playing around with it while taking away, just taking away the value of what is it that makes these Studio Ghibli films so timeless and what makes them considered some of the best animated features of all time. And from there, though, it did honestly make me wonder. It honestly made me think, is this even legal? Are they even allowed to do this? Especially with the fact that they're using the art style of Studio Ghibli, a Japanese animation studio. Would Japanese copyright laws actually be cool with it? Because I know firsthand that Japan is extremely strict, some of the strictest in the world when it comes to copyright infringement. And I mean, just recently, my channel, like my YouTube channel, actually had a strike because of copyright infringement when I just wanted to upload my review of Pokemon the Movie 2000. So I just want to go and clarify, I'm not a law expert, I don't claim to be or anything like that, but I did my best to do some research to see if there is any legal troubles when it comes to stuff like this. And I did find something interesting here. It's this document called General Understanding of AI and Copyright in Japan, which is directly from the Agency for Cultural Affairs from the government of Japan. So this is definitely a very solid source right over here. So I don't think you can find anything else that might be stronger than this, because they will go and make things clear about the factor of AI and copyright in Japan. Now, to go and ultimately answer the question, does the Studio Ghibli AI art infringe copyright in Japan? And the answer is honestly complicated. It's honestly very hard to say, because on one hand, I did find something in here that did feel like it might be something that could show that it may infringe upon copyright, and that is right over here. It's specifically with Article 30-4. And Article 30-4, it pretty much states that technically, yes, you can use copyrighted material without the permission of the copyright holder in order to go and do some AI training, but it must be for non-enjoyment purposes. That whatever you're using to train the AI, it cannot be used for enjoyment. And when they clarify what is considered to be enjoyment, it is right over here, in which it states that enjoyment under the Article 30-4 refers to the act of obtaining the benefit of having the viewer's intellectual and emotional needs satisfied through using copyrighted work. And some of the examples that they stated includes literary works, works of computer programming, musical works, and movie works. So theoretically, this feels like it might infringe Article 34 because the purpose of these AI images is clearly for enjoyment, and plus the fact that it is using copyrighted works from movies, such as the Studio Ghibli films, in order to go and train its AI. So there is a factor that might feel pretty illegal. But hold on. Then I found something a little bit different that might contrast that argument. And that is right over here in terms of the imitation of a creator's style. And that feels like something that might legit be true for this right over here, considering that it is emulating a style and not necessarily a specific movie per se, in which it says right over here, copyright protection applies to the creative expressions of an idea and not the idea itself. Therefore, an AI-generated material which applies to the creator's style of a pre-existing copyrighted work does not infringe copyright if the style merely encompasses an idea. Conversely, Article 30-4 of the Act may not apply to AI training which picks off a specific creator's style in the following situations. The distinctions between ideas and creative expressions have been determined on a case-by-case basis, depending on the specific circumstances. A small group of works consisting only of specific creators' copyrighted works may not only have a common creator style, i.e. idea, but may also include common creative expressions. If such group of works is intentionally reproduced in order to carry out additional training for the purpose of generating materials that contains all or parts of such common creative expressions, Article 30-4 of the Act does not apply to such reproductions because of the purpose enjoyment coexists. So from there, it feels like now you understand what I mean by the fact that this feels very complicated, even in terms of Japanese copyright laws. Because on one hand, it does feel a bit illegal because there is a chance that what they are doing here is infringing on Article 30-4. But then again, what they are imitating here is a creator's style. It's not necessarily a specific movie like My Neighbor Totoro or Spirited Away or Kiki's Delivery Service or Princess Mononoke. It's not any of those specific factors. It is more the general art style that Studio Ghibli would go and produce. So that's why even law experts are saying that if Studio Ghibli would go and put out a lawsuit, they would find that they would have a bit of a hard time to try to go and actually put in, a copyright strike or just put in a copyright infringement lawsuit onto OpenAI. It's just a bit difficult. It's just a bit difficult to try to figure out if it would be possible to go and do so. So that's why overall, despite the moral ethics of it, there is an aspect where it feels like maybe it's legal, maybe it's not, but there's one thing that it doesn't deny is that it is popular and it's just not been looking good for, the artistry. It's like, this is just a prominent example of what Hayao Miyazaki says, is that this feels more like an insult than a technological marvel, because it takes away the years of craftsmanship, like the artistry behind it, that has made Studio Ghibli one of the most beloved animation studios of all time, just to go and get some enjoyment of like, hey, look, here's a picture of me, but in the Studio Ghibli style. It really it just removes like, what is it that made the Studio Ghibli art style so beloved? What made it so complex? And what is it that's so difficult to try to go and replicate, or at least be replicated by people? However, there is one more thing I want to say, though, because maybe this is a good thing after all. I know, it sounds weird, but allow me to explain. There is a silver lining to this, in which there is a possibility that this is more of a detriment to AI than it actually is good. Now, just yesterday, I actually talked to a friend of mine who is actually very knowledgeable in the business of AI, and he actually told me that with all the Studio Ghibli AI art that's been going around social media, it's actually something that could actually end up hurting OpenAI. This is more of a problem for them than it actually is pretty good. And I'll tell you why. Because regardless of the legal issues, these are two different directions that would ultimately screw over OpenAI. And I'll tell you why. Let's say, for example, it's proven to be illegal. Let's say OpenAI would not be allowed to go and do this, or that they would not be allowed to go and profit from this. Well, then what happens is that people would still be using the AI, and then from there, it would end up damaging their resources, or not necessarily damage, but it would pretty much overuse their resources, and that the technology is becoming, it's less profitable than it is before, because, well, they can't even use, they can't even make money in the first place. So from there, they can't, they cannot go and actually profit from people who would actually go and use Chat GPT. So from there, that would be a massive problem, that they would have technology in order to keep running. They would have to severely lose money in the process. But what if it's legal though? What if they are allowed to do so? What if it's been proven that, no copyright laws are broken and that they're free to go and do something like this? Well, that reveals a massive flaw with OpenAI. Because if it is proven that the Studio Ghibli AI art style, if all this is legal, then that means the competitors are going to take note and they will take action to go and create something that could be even better than what OpenAI would go and produce. Because that's the biggest problem with OpenAI. It's the fact that they are very fragile when it comes to competition. Because they know very well that they're not the best when it comes to crafting this technology. They know that there are way better out there. There are way better stuff out there in terms of providing that AI service than anyone else. In fact, they had quite a massive scare when DeepSeek entered into the scene, and they proved that they can not only provide better technology than OpenAI, but they could do so at a fraction of the cost. And that's why OpenAI is trying so hard to try to monopolize the AI industry, that they want to go and make ChatGPT synonymous with AI. It's kind of like how many people would go and say Kleenex instead of a tissue paper. They want people to say ChatGPT instead of AI. That's their big goal with what they want to try to accomplish. But if there are other competitors out there who are allowed to go and create this technology and prove that they could go and do better, then this is severely going to tank and undermine OpenAI, where they would just go and crumble, that they would just be screwed because they are not in a position right now to go and compete against other AI competitors. So that is why I am saying that the silver lining and the good news from all this is that even though this may not be necessarily something that could ultimately be the downfall of AI in general, this could be something that would ultimately cripple the biggest AI company out there. Because either way, whatever the situation may be, it would put them in a bad situation where they would be left losing a lot of revenue, rather it be because the technology that they provide has been proven to not be legal, or at least not legal to go and profit out of, or it would be something that their competitors would go and take advantage out of, and they would go and prove themselves that they can easily be a better alternative than with OpenAI. So that's ultimately the entire situation that they have found themselves in. And who knows? We'll see with how things go in the future. Maybe this trend will go and continue, or maybe OpenAI is going to immediately put a stop to this and put in another update to stop people from making more of these Studio Ghibli AI art. Because I can tell you right now, internally in OpenAI, they're freaking out about the situation. All right, so with that said now, I would like to go and pass the mic on to you all, and I would like to ask, how do you all feel about the whole Studio Ghibli AI art trend? I mean, there's a very good chance that you guys are against it, but I would like to know what you think about everything that I've discussed here. All right, so let's see. Honestly, this is really upsetting. Miyazaki is absolutely right and should absolutely be against AI. The fact that these people would use AI like this to try to do it in the Studio Ghibli style is just insulting. This really is another example of how AI does nothing but hurt people's jobs. Honestly, the only good thing about this is that this court hurts AI in the long run, but damage OpenAI overall. All right, let's see. I did hear some say Miyazaki's reaction is more about how the zombies movement is more of an insult to disabled people than be angry with AI. However, these people didn't pay attention to the lines that he didn't want AI in his work and that humans lose faith in themselves in response to AI. Well, honestly, I would say that during that particular meeting, yeah, there is that factor that he's just insulted by the way that the zombies would be walking and not understand pain because it was animated by a computer. But you saw in the clip that they made it clear that they want computers to draw just like how people do. So Miyazaki already got the message, and that's why like they immediately cut afterwards to the factor that like he pretty much lost faith in humanity right there. So I think Miyazaki was very much clear about the intentions of AI to draw like people would, and he doesn't seem too happy to hear about that. Let's see now. Will animators still have their jobs if we bring this tech in? That should be the question when new technology is being brought in. If you bring this tech in, then you better be keeping the people. If you are a single person, then you better not be using that technology. If AI is to be used, then all the artists and animators past and future better be able to have job security. That they have time and good treatment, not be fired. If they are fired, it better be because of their actions, not cost. Oh, yeah, I can definitely understand you right there. Let's see. What else do we have here? We don't have a lot, and I don't have a lot of time left, so I'll go and read 2 more comments. It's very wild that those AI-generated Studio Ghibli art is starting to get popular, and after watching Miyazaki's stance on the technology, his thoughts are priceless and very based. You don't mess with him. And I will say, when it comes to the copyright laws, it's very strange and complicated with how it can be used, but yeah, quite a bizarre trend. Also, wishing you have fun in Japan. I want to ask if there will be a new video during your vacation. I will go and put out a statement much later on, but there will be at least 1 week where I won't be posting a video whatsoever. So I already got it planned out, and you'll know pretty soon what I'll have in store. Anyways, when I first heard about this on Blue Sky, I gotta say that we are reaching an all-time low for this so-called AI art by poorly trying to mimic Studio Ghibli. I honestly do hope that Studio Ghibli will sue OpenAI soon. I hate this, and no one in their right mind should use it. Oh, and one thing, Matt, hope you have a fantastic time in Japan. You're going to love it. Oh, I hope so, dude. And with that said and done, that should do it for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Once again, I would like to go and remind you all that there will be no new episodes on the 7th or the 14th or during those weeks, but I will be coming back on the 21st. And with that said, I would like to say, if you guys enjoyed your time here on AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, don't forget to go and subscribe to the AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast YouTube channel or the AniMat Live Twitch channel. And if you are listening to this to whatever podcast service you're listening to, then don't forget to go and follow me there, whether it be on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and more. And with all that said and done, I'd like to say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, sayonara, dudes. See you later, dudes. Might as well stick to the old classic right there.